Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project has given President Bola Tinubu 48 hours to release the End Bad Governance protesters, including the 32 malnourished children paraded in court on Friday, or be prepared to face appropriate legal actions from it. In a statement by its Deputy Director, Kolawole Oluwadare, copied to the Chair Rapporteur of the UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention, Dr. Matthew Gillett, for intervention, Serap calls on Tinubu to use his leadership position and good offices to direct the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Lateef Fagbemi to take urgent steps to ensure the immediate and unconditional release of all the End Bad Governance protesters. According to Serap, the children and other protesters were wrongfully detained for the peaceful exercise of their human rights, and calls on the president to investigate the grave violations of the human rights of the children and other protesters in detention. And now Dr. Sam Amadi joins us now to shed more light on this particular development. He is also an Arise analyst, Director, Abuja School of Social and Political Thought. Thank you for joining us, Doctor, for your time again. Well, the arraignment of these minors arrested in August, of course, we're seeing quite a lot of reactions trailing this development. Well, that is no news anymore, but the news now, the latest is that there are quite of dozens of reactions, for against this, I mean, in respect of this development. But before we look at those, reactions, what is truly the position of the law on this?
Well, the position of the law has many dimensions. The first is that you would expect that when there's an arrest of this nature, first is that you have speedy trial. So 3 months detention is beyond what the law would consider reasonable. Again, the Constitution is clear as to 24 hours, 48 hours. Of course, the Administrative Justice Act provides for possibilities of police authorities or law enforcement agents seeking judicial authorization for extended stay, like 14 days. But again, it's designed to be on weight of evidence. So keeping these alleged violators for this long raises the question of 3 months. And again, the question around inhuman degrading treatment. So if you look at the optics as they came into the court, the picture you see is a picture of malnourishment, mistreatment. I mean, it's tragic, or it's annoying and almost like disgraceful for the IG to say that those who feigned the fainting. And so that's a category of violation, that these people were subjected to degrading and inhuman treatment when in detention. Again, let's not forget, and I think the police is institutionally so distracted and kind of, they can't wrap their head around the fact that suspects, no matter how you think they are guilty, remain suspects and presumed innocent. And the presumption of innocence has no value if there will be unreasonable detention, if there will be bad treatment, if there will be torture and maltreatment. So the idea of presumption of detention of innocence is that idea that nobody should be suffering because of unprosecuted, unconviction, alleged crime without conviction. So it doesn't make sense to say we have presumption of innocence if you're going to be slammed into a dungeon. You come with risk of sickness, you come out almost dead, some are dead. Okay? If you go to our prison, you will see that not just this case, there are perhaps many more children who are trapped in this, disconnection between police, law enforcement, prosecution, and constitutional due process. Again, another issue that arises is a question of what are you charging them for? The notion that treason flows naturally from protest is silly and uninformed. Treason, you don't even need to be involved in any protest to be involved in treason. Treason speaks to some clearly established actions, either in collaboration with other people, to overthrow government. So you must have to show that are confederates who have taken action, made decisions, and have actions to overthrow government, not to protest. So during the period of protest, there's this notion that because the protest might seem to government as unreasonable, extended, violent, none of this translates to treasonable or element of a treason. And so it's so suspicious to me on the face of it that seeing this level of kids, I mean, this number of children, basically some of them are even kids, basically, not even children, to say that they are involved in treason is comical and tragic at the same time.
And talking about, whether this is treasonable or not, or worth trying for a treason or not, but citing the case of flying the flags of, foreign flags in a sovereign nation, that's what the case is. But again, let's look at...
I don't even think that's a crime per se.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, go ahead.
But do you think the prosecutor is acting on intelligence, perhaps that is not available to the general public, or the government is acting? Because one of the examples they have given is that these people are in connivance, perhaps, to team up with some element or known element in the system to topple the government.
Whenever government talks about known elements, then that's bullshit. Okay, let's get it right. Intelligence does not equate evidence and conviction. Two different things. Yes, the security agencies have certain responsibility to build intelligence. It's not my job. And I can't second guess what they're doing. So I would assume, presumption, even though they may not be doing intelligence. But let's presume that they are smart guys who work on intelligence. Now, those intelligence is what you collect. You don't need brutalization. You don't even need arrest and detention. By the way, how does this procedure kind of help the intelligence gathering? So you have the intelligence. Let's assume they have. You now have to get that intelligence to a point where you prosecute people. The point we say that all this process are guided by due process provisions. Again, no intelligence says you're going to launch this kind of young people in a normal prison, throw them away there, 3 months, and bring them in the manner. So let's get it right. So what they connive with, I mean, I don't even know how this case. Look, this case are both victims as well as, quote unquote, if you like, I call them criminal, but they're victims. I mean, who would, they made a trip out of the country to meet these insurgents, spoke with them, and arranged to carry out overthrow of government with those Tatar sappers, with arms. I mean, we have real bandits in this country who are waging war against government. We have the Boko Haram, real people, waging war, adults with heavy machine gun, and we can't go against them. So these are the people who are going to hold meetings. And this is just, it's so silly. It's institutional stupidity. Again, it speaks to the failure of the criminal justice system. Let me tell you, when there's a protest, there could be multiple crimes. So one crime could be people who go and loot. You have to track them, evidence-based, CCTV camera, and take them. You don't pick people who are on protest because there's a violence, there's looting. So every crime has to be associated clearly. So if there are people who had meetings with foreign entities and have evidence that they plotted to overthrow this government, you pick them out. In 1 or 2 days, prosecute them. You have the evidence already. And so this notion that you can keep people away, children in such sordid situation, with the whole, they want to overthrow government, I think is blatherdash. I think the court should start punishing. Again, this level, this is a total failure of judicial system. It starts what I call administration of justice system. It starts with policing in terms of dictating crime, arresting people, taking people into custody for presumed crime. You have to do that professionally. You have to associate people to real crimes, and if there's no crime, you can see them immediately, you get them out of the place. You don't hold them. Second, you get to the court system, the DPP or the Attorney General's office. There must be some careful sorting out of people who may be involved in situation to know who and who can we place a charge against. You sort it out clearly. Then you go to the court. I mean, there's not a creeping jurisprudential failure. The courts now think that bail should be some kind of bail is, for example, 10 million. I mean, look at all these people, 10 million for each of them. I think the judge, equal to a very reasonable, human rights-minded judge. I have so much respect for him. But I think there has become this big clouding that the whole essence of bail is to fix massive amount. How many people in this country have 10 million?
So in a nutshell,
so that's a failure.
In a nutshell, perhaps we need to perhaps this is a reflection of the administration of criminal justice.
Failed criminal justice system in this country.
Okay.
Failed.
We get back to that in a moment, but let's get into reactions, different reactions from different agencies, key agencies, like the government are already reacting to it, like the Human Rights Committee. But again, the coalition, the key one, there is a coalition of northern groups issuing a statement that this is embarrassing. The Arewa broadcast petitions, they've also issued a statement as well. How do you perceive these? Because some are already perceiving these perhaps being political or trivialize the whole essence, so that we don't miss the target. What's your interpretation of some of these reactions, particularly from the northern groups?
Well, evidently, to be political. I mean, look, if you draw rain, you get rain. So the government acted politically. I mean, the government was not looking at crime as such. If you're looking at crime, there are crimes to charge people like stealing, like affray, like disorderly conduct. So there are criminal offenses you could charge some people based on conduct. So I'm not saying that you should allow young people steal as well. Young people can commit crime, okay? So this is not about saying anybody who is not up to 20, don't charge them for any offense. No, you can charge people reasonably. The law says at what age they can be punished. The law says at what age they can go for prosecution. So I agree with that. But the whole thing is political. To say, oh, people want to overthrow government. I reckon very well Alake, during the villa, came out and says the whole protest is an attempt to overthrow government. That's not true. That's political. So these other northern groups are pushing back politically. They are mining political capital from this crisis, and they are right to do so, because government itself is pushing a political project. That's nothing criminal. There's no clear-eye criminal justice effort in hounding hundreds of or tens of underage people and saying they are facing trial for treason. I mean, that's political. But again, back to the key point here, is that this should be a story around the failure of criminal justice system in this country. I can tell you, if you go to our prisons, you see many instances, in the Southeast, for example, where they launch sporadic attack on communities looking for IPOB or whatever they're looking for. You could be sure that there's some underage children who've been there for a year, 2 years. So we need to have an inquest, a re-inquest into the criminal justice system, looking at how the police, the security services, judicial system, the attorney general's offices are dealing with balance between criminality and freedom.
So that we can wrap up now. I mean, of course, late Friday we saw the Attorney General of the Federation, Minister of Justice, issued a statement asking that the case file be transferred to his office. So let's wrap up on this note. How is this likely to impact the outcome of this case now that we're seeing a transfer of the case file to the office of the Attorney General of the Federation?
Of course, that office has more smart people who understand. I mean, they have been failing, and again, that's a problem. We always look for senior advocates, trial lawyers to make Attorney General. I've argued right from here, that's not the case. These people should understand public policy and law. So what they should do now is to sit back and say, this is a failure all the way. And I think by this point, they should discharge these boys. They should throw in only prosecute. Don't prosecute these people anymore. You've already damaged them. They have suffered more than they need to. And so call back. I mean, government is embarrassed. This is real embarrassment. And so the intervention is to save that embarrassment. And intervention should go beyond releasing these kids to now calling for a re-inquest. Look, we have to manage national security in a much more enlightened, rule-based approach. So there's nothing, I mean, there's no security efficacy in clumbering your way with all kinds of oddities. Take people under the bridge, lock them up, charge everyone with treason. That's not how to manage national security. And I think there are people who are running national security apparatus in this country are not very smart, and they're not helping government because they are further exposing government and building resentment against government. I mean, couldn't you have just picked a few people who committed rape crimes and prosecute them in a diligent and decent manner than hounding all these hundreds and now exposing government to big embarrassment globally and nationally, and now you're going to set everybody free? I think that's the cause of incompetence and lack of understanding.
I must thank you, Dr. Sam Amadi, Director of Abuja School of Social and Political Thought and Rise Analyst. Thank you for coming on the News Night.
Thank you.